championship belongs to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Trevor Lane here for LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers. And guess what? It's game day. I know some of you might be groaning a little bit because the Lakers are 0-4 in preseason. And frankly, it hasn't been that close in any of the games that they've lost. But I'm still excited to see the Lakers take the floor tonight. We're going to break down what we're going to be looking for, especially if, which we believe is going to happen, the big three, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook, are all on the court together tonight. Ron Gutterman joining me from LakersNation.com. Ron, how are you doing, man?
Doing all right. I'm excited to see the three of them on a court together for the first time. Feels like we've been dancing around this for a few games, and it'll just be nice to have all three out there.
So Lakers 0-4 at this point. LeBron himself has made it very, very clear that he takes nothing away from preseason, that he's not really putting in full effort in preseason, that it doesn't provide anything for him. And I feel like there is a trickle-down effect because one of the things that people have been upset about is that we haven't seen great effort from the Lakers, except for this burst that we saw in the second quarter against the Phoenix Suns last time around. Other than that, we haven't seen that kind of great effort from the Lakers on a night-to-night basis. What are your thoughts on that? Are we going to see the team finally push down on the gas pedal a little bit tonight, knowing that there's only two regular or preseason games left before the regular season starts up?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think so. I think maybe, LeBron goes from giving 10% effort to 20% effort,
Right.
but I don't see anything more significant than that. It's still preseason, even though it's the final two games of preseason. It's still just preseason. LeBron, Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, they've been doing this long enough to know that this just doesn't matter as much. And so I think you might see a little bit of effort the first few minutes of the game, but I wouldn't be surprised if by the second quarter it was just back to normal.
Well, now, Frank Vogel has said that he wants to kind of solidify his rotation in the last two games, that he wants to make sure that that he's got some sense of what things are going to look like when the regular season starts up. So I do think that as much as we've seen mixing and matching so far in the first four games, which, look, they warned us ahead of time that they were going to be throwing out all kinds of different lineups, I think we're going to see something, maybe not exactly the same, but closer to what the coaching staff believes will be their opening night rotation tonight.
Yeah, I definitely think it's possible. Obviously, it's difficult with Kendrick Nunn, Malik Monk,
Yes.
and Horton Tucker and Trevor Ariza out. I wasn't expecting to say that many names.
My gosh.
But they are. It'll be different. It'll be a lot of Wayne Ellington and a lot of Kent Bazemore, but I do think the rotations on the coaching side, things will start to look like the regular season. I just don't know if the level of effort and the level of play from the players is going to be regular season ready.
Sure. I think that's fair. So you mentioned all the guys who are out. Ariza, we know. Taylor Horton Tucker, we know. They're out long term. THT, I've heard some people throwing out there 6 weeks. We haven't seen anything official, though, from anybody in terms of a timetable. Ariza gets reevaluated in 8 weeks. So they're going to be without them for a significant period of time. Monk, sounds like they're still hoping he'll be good to go for opening night, but we'll have to wait and see on that. And then Kendrick Nunn, again, doesn't sound at this point like anything too serious, but still a bit ironic that it's all the young guys, right? Plus Trevor Ariza, but the three main young guys that the Lakers were going to rely upon to eat up minutes for some of the older players, they're the three guys who got hurt, not the old guys so far.
Yeah, the older guys really showing some resiliency. You gotta respect them for making it through this preseason without any issues. But yeah, I mean those three guys, Kendrick Nunn, Taylor Horton Tucker, Malik Monk, they're important to what the Lakers are going to do during the regular season. So hopefully they get back as soon as possible. Doesn't look like any of them are going to play the rest of the preseason, but yeah, I mean, in terms of getting your regular season rotation together, those guys are really key parts of that.
All right, so we're going to see Wayne Ellington get an opportunity to step up. Austin Reeves will get some more minutes. Anybody else that we should really be keeping an eye on tonight, just in terms of the role players that are going to be asked to do a little bit more?
Yeah, I would say Kent Bazemore is also in that equation, just because with Trevor Ariza out, I really see a world in which Kent Bazemore becomes a three. And I know he's not really built to be a three, but I think the Lakers will say, hey, we don't have another option here. I think he becomes a three. I think Austin Reeves can become a three. So I think that's kind of what I'm going to look for. Wayne Ellington is a pure two. He's one of the most pure twos in the NBA. Like he cannot play outside of position. But I'm going to be looking at Bazemore and Austin Reeves to see what they do when they're playing out of position, which I'm sure they will tonight.
And Bazemore has certainly been impressive so far. I've pegged him right now as a favorite to win a starting job for the Lakers this season. I think that through preseason, he's proven that he should indeed get one of those with his defensive effort. He's been great there. But let's talk a little bit about Russell Westbrook, because I know a lot of people are focused on this. 15 turnovers in his first 2 games as a Laker. That's ugly. Bad shooting, bad decision making. What are you expecting to see out of him tonight? He did not seem concerned at all in his post-game press conference after the loss to the Suns, in which he had 9 turnovers. He kind of joked and said, at least they don't count in preseason.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with Russell Westbrook on this. Look, I want to see good basketball out of these guys before the regular season starts, but this is Russell Westbrook we're talking about. Like, we know what Russell Westbrook is. We know who he is as a player. We have a decade of evidence as to who he is as a player. I don't need preseason games from him to show me. Like, preseason for me is more for guys like Austin Reeves, for Sean D. Brown, like guys that we don't know exactly what they are. With most of this Lakers team, we know exactly who these players are. And so I feel like if they are not giving their best effort in preseason, I almost take it as they're just trying to have fun and they don't really care.
I mean, I think to a degree, and maybe that's a dangerous way of thinking. I don't know if it's they just want to have fun with it. I don't know if I would go that far. I would look at it as they're just trying to get into a little bit of a rhythm and get their legs under them. I think they know they're not going to put out maximum effort or anything like that during preseason play. But with Russ specifically, what I'm going to be looking for tonight is the decision making, right? I feel like he's said it a bunch of times. He's been so into this mindset of, I'm going to help everybody else around me. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come to this team. I'm going to make everybody else's lives easier, to the point where his opponents so far, in the limited minutes that we've seen him in, have played him as a passer. And he's fed into that by passing when those passes aren't really there, because they're closing off passing lanes and they're giving up driving lanes for him. I think I'd like to see Russ flip that on its head and just be in attack mode and score the basketball. If it's there, take what the defense is giving you. That is going to open up the passes. I feel like the mindset has just been off. So I'm going to be keeping a real close eye offensively on whether or not he's got that mindset of now score first and make the defense take that away, and then the passes will open up, rather than pass, regardless of what the defense is doing. I think that's going to be a key to focus on tonight.
Yeah, and I think Frank Vogel has talked a lot about, in practices and in the preseason games, that there's just almost too much selflessness going on and not enough just taking it for yourself. And Russell Westbrook, he is the ultimate guy where he can get into attack mode and just he can beat you by himself. So it would be nice to see that from him. Again, I just don't put too much stock into what happens in these games, especially for players who are 5 or more years into their career. Like, we kind of just know who they are. So, like, Russell Westbrook isn't magically going to get better at, shooting the three or like anything like that. He's going to be who he is. And so I want to see more of that attack mode, but I know that when the games start to count, he'll be there for that.
I'll tell you what, Ron, it would just be nice to see some serious improvements tonight, right? Because we've seen now 4 games in a row, and people were excited all offseason, and now there's been 4 games in a row of just feeling like you're getting bludgeoned, right, from the fan perspective, because you're just getting dominated each and every night doing these big blowout losses. And people start to get more and more concerned. Now, we saw a little flash of things in the second quarter against the Suns of what it can be. I think we just need to see more of that. Even if the Lakers lose, there's going to be people who will just look at the end result. But I'm going to be looking at, do we see good basketball? I feel like we've only seen that little burst of good basketball so far from the Lakers. And around the entire team, Westbrook, LeBron, everybody, I'd like to see just some solid basketball, win or lose. Even if they lose, just keep the game at least close, have a competitive game, see something where we can say, this is what this team really is. Whereas you've got people right now who are looking at the last 4 games and going, maybe this team just doesn't have it. And right now we don't have any evidence really to point to otherwise.
Yeah, and that's why I think the first quarter is going to be really important for me. Just because I think that's where they're going to be the most hyped. They're going to be the most ready. They're going to that's where they're going to try the most things. I think by the second or third quarter, you're going to start to see, instead of bringing LeBron back in for his normal rotation, let's just bring Ellington back. Like let's start to go to some of the two-way guys, the G League guys. Like I think you'll see more of that. I think the first quarter is the important quarter in terms of preseason play.
Where are you at right now in terms of the starting lineup? I know you're going to do a breakdown for us on a video in just a bit here on how the Lakers are going to handle the wing rotation, but specifically looking at the bigs, is AD starting at the 5, do you think, or have the injuries changed things enough to where we're going to see maybe Dwight, maybe DeAndre Jordan start at the 5 simply because the Lakers don't have as many bodies as they did when we started the preseason?
I think if Trevor Ariza is healthy, we're having a different conversation.
Exactly.
I think he's starting at the 5. But I do see a world now where they say, hey, we don't have the depth on the wings to start 2 wing players with Russ, LeBron, AD. So maybe it's best to go back to get Dwight or DeAndre at the 5, Anthony Davis at the 4. I think there's still an argument to be made that they could go that route because Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, Anthony Davis are all phenomenal rebounders. So size really isn't an issue in that lineup. Mm-hmm. But I would see why they would just go back to having a traditional 5 with Anthony Davis because they just don't have the depth to make it through a whole game right now.
Well, and I think that tonight's starting lineup will be very telling of what the Lakers are planning to do, right? I mean, this is something that we've been debating for months now. Like, who is going to start at the 5? Is it AD? Is it Dwight? Is it now DeAndre Jordan? Or, for a while there it was mystery player, Marc Gasol, whoever it was going to be. I think we'll get a good sense of what the Lakers are going to do tonight, but it is a little bit disconcerting that it almost feels like they've had the choice taken away from them because of all these injuries, because like you said, they don't have as much wing depth anymore, and that almost forces them to start a true center, which may not be a bad thing, right? There's pros and cons to it, but I don't know if the option is there to start AD at the 5. I still think he can get a lot of minutes, but with so many wings out, that's going to make it tough to put 5 players on the floor with AD at the 5 and have that be your starting lineup and be able to rely on that lineup either defensively or offensively, depending on who you're putting out there, what personnel you're turning to.
Yeah, and I just think there's a depth issue there where you're starting Bazemore and Ellington. Well, you don't really want those guys playing 30 or so minutes, but you have Ariza out and you may have Talen Horton-Tucker out for a little while. And so now you're asking a lot of Malik Monk, and you're asking a lot. You're starting to ask some things of Austin Reeves in the regular season. So depth becomes an issue there, and I think that's my biggest concern with that.
Okay, so to quote Dennis Schroeder, at the end of the day, oh, that felt gross, but that's okay.
It's funny now that he's gone.
It's funnier now that he's gone. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, if you watched any of Dennis Schroeder's media availabilities, he uses the phrase "at the end of the day" like multiple times per question answered, right? It's just something that he throws in there quite a bit.
At least once a sentence.
Yeah, He loves going to that. But at the end of the day, what do you expect? What do you think we're actually going to see from the Lakers tonight? Do you think tonight's the night that fans feel better about the team and we see an uptick in energy and the big 3 come out and Russell Westbrook looks better and AD gets his stride going offensively? We see the jumper start dropping. We see a little bit of LeBron. Is tonight a get-right performance, or is it more of the same and we're going to see that much more panic post-game?
I think at least my hope is I see a good first quarter. And if I see a good first quarter, I'm not going to care too much about the end result, just because I believe the first quarter will be the most similar to what we're planning on seeing in the regular season. So like in terms of how they rotate, what schemes they use defensively, like I think it'll be the most similar in the first quarter than it will be in the fourth. So I'll be looking at that quarter. If they put together a solid quarter and they look good, I'll feel great regardless of result.
All right. Fair enough. I agree. I think that we're going to see a better Lakers team tonight. Fingers crossed. Anyway, I hope that we're going to see them really start to put some things together. I'm not expecting perfection by any means, but I do think we're going to see them clicking a bit more. I think we're going to see a better Russell Westbrook tonight, and seeing the big 3 out there. I can't wait to see how they all interact. Do we get to see more Westbrook, Anthony Davis pick and rolls? How do LeBron and Westbrook play off of each other? There's a lot to watch in tonight's game. So really excited tonight, 7:30 Pacific time, and then right after the game, we're going to be going live right here on the Lakers Nation YouTube channel to take all your questions and comments and break everything down. So make sure you join us for that and subscribe. Turn on those notifications. That way, as soon as we go live, you get notified and can come join us. Till next time, everybody, stay safe and see ya.